On today's show, the Padres suffer a very embarrassingly depressing loss against the Marlins, and we're just 1 week away from the trade deadline, so a lot is indeed going on.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Thursday, July 24th. As always, I am your host with sometimes, occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes, and I've been covering the team for 6 years now, not just for this podcast, but also various other outlets, including justbaseball.com, chief among them. Today's episode, guys, we're cooking with not gas, but we're cooking something. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but we're going to be there together throughout it all, right? Let's talk about this, the last two games of this Marlins series that I actually didn't cover because I was covering a bunch of other things, and then I traveled to San Diego, which is, by the way, if you are watching on YouTube, why it looks different behind me. I am chilling at a currently undisclosed location, but best you believe I am here to give the Padres as good, hope as possible. And before everyone blames me for them losing the last two games of this series, for those who don't know, my everydayers will know, I went to San Diego a couple months ago for the first time, and they didn't score at all. They got swept by the Rays. They scored like two total runs against the Blue Jays. It was terrible. And then the one game that I went to, I was in the bathroom when Tatis hit his home run. So don't blame me, because they did blow one of these two games that we're going to talk about before I had even gotten on the plane. So I'm just saying, it's not all just me. But we're going to talk about those two games, guys, and then just give a kind of general talk about what's going on with the trade deadline, what I've been hearing lately, and just the kind of feel and vibe heading into it, because we're just 1 week away. Let's start with yesterday's game, though. The Padres lose 3-2 in this one. Another heartbreaker. Look, the easy thing to do with this game is to go out and say, well, Dylan Cease, after having what was maybe one of his best starts of the season, for those who don't remember, just recently against Washington, 5 1/3, striking out 10, no runs, no walks. It was great. Then in this game, he only goes 5. He gives up 2 earned runs on 4 hits, 3 walks, and 5 Ks. An error by Manny Machado made one of those runs unearned. Look, it's disappointing. It's not the worst start, obviously, that he's had this year, but it's very why does it feel so impossible for this guy to just have a good run? Like, for a guy as talented as Cease, for him to be doing what he's been doing, it's just really frustrating. It's definitely not the worst of the starts that we've seen lately. I think that the Arizona one was super frustrating because he looked great. He had 8 Ks in that one, then just got totally torched in one inning, right? Like, he keeps having those blow-up innings. And in this one, it wasn't, I don't know. He had the Jesus Sanchez home run, right? Like, that's what happens in this one. And unfortunately, that just kind of spells Dylan Cease's season. He is one of the least clutch pitchers in Major League Baseball. He is one of those guys, for this year anyway. Although, believe you me, I imagine Padres fans would like to talk about last year's playoff game as proof for why he's in general one of the least clutch, no matter what, even counting, not counting this year. I just think that it's just been maddening to see, that this guy has so much talent, that he's becoming a free agent after the year, that you needed him to do better, especially with Michael King hurt, especially heading into the season, knowing that Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove are out. And every time he has a good start, like this one, he turns it around, or he's just consistently fine. 4.59 ERA on the year. I think things can get better. I do, but I'm done kind of hoping for that, and more importantly, expecting that, because bottom line is, it's not just a matchup thing, right? Cease consistently every start. He maybe has, like in this game, he gives up a single to allow a run. That's fine. But then he gets a lot of strikeouts, and then he will give up the big home run that makes anything he's done so far kind of inert. Now, granted, here's what I want to talk about as well. The Padres scored 2 runs, and so it makes it easier to blame Cease, because, yes, Cease is part of the reason they lost. 3-10 on the year, guys. I don't care about wins and losses, neither should you, for determining a good pitcher, but that does say a lot for a team that is pretty, they're good, they're holding on to a playoff spot. For you to be 3-10, I think that does point to just how unclutch he's been this year, and the fact that every time he's out, we always lose with whatever runs he gave up, right? And it's just super frustrating. So hopefully he kind of gets better towards the second half, but I'd be lying to you if I said that I was confident. And I was talking with a friend of mine the other day. We were talking about what is the playoff rotation? right? Like, could this team make a trade for a starting pitcher? And I don't think that's likely, but someone pitched it to me as this. They're like, look, man, you've got hopefully Michael King healthy. You've got Nick Pivetta. Who is the other, you need like 3 starters for the postseason. I genuinely think it's Yu Darvish right now. And I know Yu Darvish hasn't been pitching well as soon as he got off the IL, but I genuinely think the Padres are going to be like, we actually trust you in a big game more than Dylan Cease. Because we can't even trust Dylan Cease in the minor games, like whatsoever, right? At least Yu Darvish, and also if you play against the Dodgers, Yu Darvish is great against the Dodgers, right? So like, at least that team he's going to do pretty well against, or at least you have a good opportunity to beat them. So that's what we're looking at. Isn't that crazy? Like 39-year-old Yu Darvish and Nick Pivetta, and I don't think it's this far, but would you feel more confident being like, let's give Randy Vasquez 3 innings in like a big game if we need to do sort of bullpen game? Would you feel better about that? The fact that you can't immediately say Dylan Cease is all you need to know about this season. In terms of the rest of the game, though, not much too else to discuss, honestly, from the offensive side of things. They only scored 2 runs from Manny Machado and Jose Iglesias getting singles. Late rally did not work in this one, of course, because why would it, right? Padres are one of the worst teams in baseball when it comes to hitting with runners in scoring position. They had a moment in the top of the 8th. Iglesias got the single. Tatis even got a single, and then Luis Arraez lines out. Looked like a hit, but more importantly, the fact that it looked like he swung at 3 pitches that could have been ball 4 was really frustrating for Luis Arraez. But then again, what can I say? The Padres just can't hit. And Sandy Alcantara, man. I mean, is this a joke? Like, this is a joke, right? Sandy Alcantara, who's been one of the least productive starting pitchers in baseball, especially given his brand, his name, his resume, killed the Padres in this game. 7 innings in this one of just 1-run ball. It wasn't even earned. It was an error by Nick Fortes, and 0 walks, 4 Ks. Not only is it his best start since since June 10th against the Pirates. He went 6 innings and got 6 Ks in that one. That was against the Pirates, right? That was his best start of the season. Now his overall best start, going 7 innings and blanking the Padres, probably the creme de la creme of his season. Just, is there any more to say about this Padres offense? No, there is not. But there is a lot to say about one of our sponsors before we keep continuing on with the rest of these game recaps. And folks, I got to tell you about that sponsor. And what is the sponsor? It's a new one. But that doesn't mean it is any less amazing than the ones we've already talked to you on this podcast. It is Game Day Hue. And so, let me tell you. Game Day Hue makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. Now, I'm wearing a hat as we speak. Not a Game Day Hue thing, but let me tell you, I like having good hats, and they give you great quality stuff with Game Day Hue. It's awesome. It's all about letting your colors speak for yourself. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, or anywhere in between. And let me tell you guys, right now, you get 15% off with MLB 15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDayHue.com. And when I talk about this sponsor again, I'm going to show you the products more up close because, like I said, I'm in San Diego, so I don't have them right now. But they are fantastic. And what I love is just that you can customize everything. You can kind of just, whatever works for you is what Game Day Hue is kind of all about, right? Like, you don't have to worry about being forced into one certain box. Express yourself the way you are. And as someone who isn't, like, the biggest fashion person in the world, I kind of just wear what I wear. I mean, look at me. Plain tee, I got my little jacket, got my Padres hat. I love that about Game Day Hue, that it's just whatever works for you. They're not trying to fit you in any box. It's great. Like I said, 50% off with code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDayHue.com. Let your colors talk because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com, code MLB15. Go check it out. And just like that, everybody, we are back here, the Locked On Padres podcast, thriving and vibing as always. You can check me out on Twitter /X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. Go check that out. Send me any comments. I'll try and read them. I'll try and read them for Monday's episode too. I'll still be here in San Diego, but Sunday I'll be doing an episode. So feel free to reach out, especially if you are here and want to say hi or at the game coming on Monday. That should be a lot of fun. But let's continue talking about this series. By the way, in yesterday's game, Gavin Sheets goes What is it? 0 for 4 in that one. The slump sort of continues. It's a mini slump. I just wanted to get it out there, though, that I'm not freaking out too much. We talked about this a few episodes ago, but I just think he's the type of player where he can't enter a slump. But I do think it's going to be interesting if the Padres believe in him still. 316 on base isn't great, but if you're hitting for power, it's great. But if you're not hitting for power, that's just like, what is it you do here type of situation. But I think that overall, the Padres probably are operating with the belief that Gavin Sheets can be a contributor for this team. I'm only bringing that up just in case, because it could affect things. Like if they go after Marcell Ozuna, which we talked about on yesterday's show, right? If they go after him, Sheets in left field, how good do you feel about that? Because then Sheets really needs to hit, because you know you're not getting too much value from him defensively. At least that's how I kind of break it down. And I mentioned Manny Machado as well with the errors. He's just been making. He made a couple of those. He also made one in Tuesday's game in which the Padres almost make a comeback. Let's talk about that really, really quickly. Edward Cabrera silencing the Padres. Another starting pitcher that I think actually he's been a lot better lately. 3.48 on the year. Okay, fine. I will kill them for that. But losing 3-2 in this game, Stephen Kolek, 5 2/3, 3 earned runs on 8 hits, 1 walk, 5 Ks. Again, I've been kind of wrong about this guy. I was really, really excited about him at one point. I thought that he was going to be a genuine, like, I thought he might snatch that 5 spot in the rotation, and he hasn't. But in fairness, this wasn't the worst in the world. I thought he showed some good stuff every now and then. And at the very minimum, bullpen, man. Padres bullpen has been great. It's just unbelievable how good this bullpen is and how much they often waste them. I mean, even Wandy Peralta in this game goes an inning and doesn't give up any runs. David Morgan gives up 1, don't get me wrong. But still, it's just kind of one of those situations where the Padres, like, it's so hard for me to blame anyone in this bullpen. Yuki Matsui a little bit, but it's so hard for me to ever get mad when anyone in this bullpen gives up a run, just because it's not their fault that you guys with a $300 million bajillion payroll, with Jackson Merrill, with Tatis, with Machado, with Arise, with Bogarts, right, especially with Jake Cronenworth, with all these guys that are getting paid good money, for them, and just being star players, for them to make it nearly impossible to score is why this team, over the past 4 years, is 23rd in baseball with runners in scoring position. Like, it needs to be discussed. Part of that is Petco. I imagine more of a pitcher's park. Part of that is Petco. Let me be very clear. But it is a maddening team to watch. It really is. With all this star power, all the moves, why do you guys just refuse to drive it a run? Is it that hard? Apparently it is. I don't know. I'm just in a bad mood with this after this series now. You get a Washington Nationals series win, then you get a shutdown win on Monday, and then you have this. The Padres did almost make a comeback, though, and got a little bit of sign of life from Jackson Merrill. He does rip 2 RBIs in this game with a double, allowing Xander Bogaerts and Gavin Sheets to score, but unfortunately they are unable to drive in the winning run as Jake Cronenworth flies out, Jose Iglesias strikes out, and then Trenton Brooks popped out. Because of course, right? You've got a guy on second, you have no outs. It's the Marlins, which is not a good team, but it's definitely not as bad as they used to be, but it's still a team you should be able to beat. And that's one of the things that the Padres have at least been consistent in this year, is they do typically beat the bad teams. That's still a good quality. It just means that, like, we know what to expect from you, even if the upside isn't always there. But they're unable to do it in this game. And look, I actually have a good question for you guys. Who frustrates you more, Luis Arraez or Fernando Tatis Jr.? Because some people will say Luis Arraez, because Luis Arraez this year inexplicably stopped being the ultimate hitter that he usually is. 285 batting average. Now I will say he's been raking lately, right? He's been cooking. He's been cooking with gas lately. Ever since the All-Star break, he has had a hit in every single game. He's had a couple multi-hit games. He has been okay, don't get me wrong. But Arraez can also be frustrated with the times he swings at pitches he shouldn't, the fact that he could do one-pitch groundouts and that. But for me, Tatis is just like 0 for 4 in this game. He out of the, heading into the All-Star break, he started showing some signs. He gets a 2 for 3 game against Philly, a 1 for 4 game against Philly, and then a 2 for 3 game against them. And then against the Nationals, he gets 1 hit in 3 games. And then in the Marlins series, he gets 2 hits, 1 being a double, which is great, and a walk. But you're just waiting. Like, every single time I watch this guy, I just don't understand what's going on, if it's mental. You know why it's really frustrating? Because he is displaying 2 things that he never did before. Number 1 is the walk rate. He's this is so incredible. And most of his offensive value, frankly, is the fact that he's just very good at getting on base and drawing walks. But then the second thing that he's doing is the negative, which almost outdoes the positive of his walk rate. right? And almost makes me miss the version of him that might be a little bit more free swinging. But it's the fact that he just swings and misses on every single thing on the top of the zone. We've been talking about this for months, and it's not changing. And it's a new development. He's never had this issue before. Did he swing and miss? Of course. Did he hit for a lot of power? Yeah. But he never consistently missed on pitches on the top of the zone. And that's what we keep seeing from Tatis. And we're just this Padres team. And maybe you could argue this is unfair. That's totally true. Because last year's team, Tatis was as good, like a good lowercase g player on the offensive side of things, about a 130 WRC plus, 125 at points. Like, he was a good player, but you also had other stuff around him. So maybe this is unfair, but bottom line is this team is expected to have guys like Machado, Tatis, and Bogarts and Merrill be superstars to carry the fact that they don't have necessarily the same lineup depth, the same changes that they can make, bringing up guys off the bench that maybe some other teams do. And I've defended them for that because I think there's a lot of teams that people like. Cleveland, Milwaukee, I don't know. I can't think of one right now. The Guardians, the Tigers, even to a small extent. Teams where I'm like, okay, but whose team is good with the 7 through 9 hitters or even the 6 through 9 hitters? Like, who has great 6 through 9 hitters? No, most teams it's just like you're hoping for average out of the bottom of the order. And I think that the Padres, they're like, well, look at Cleveland, man. They've been hoping for Jose Ramirez to carry their team for the last 6 years. Like, it's obviously, I know they have Stephen Kwan, don't get me wrong, but it's been basically him being the guy who has to make the whole offense go around, and it's been working for them. But the Padres, you've got like 4 of those guys. One of them recently extended because everyone loves jumping as soon as a Padres player or something looks great. This is a very, like, I don't think this team is bought low on anyone, with the exception of 2023, the trade deadline. I'm going on a tangent here. But again, Tatis, maybe it's unfair, but bottom line is if he was acting or playing like even an 850 OPS guy, I think a lot of this team's offensive problems were like, this is fine. Like, this will do. We know Merrill's going through a sophomore slump, but Tatis being that anchor beast at the top of the lineup, combined with Manny, combined with the hopes of some other guys, you'd have a decent enough offense. Actually, a great offense, considering how good the pitching has been with all the injuries and considering how electric the bullpen has been. But alas, Tatis is just a lowercase good right now. He's got an 800 OPS or a 790 OPS now. He's good, but it has been a long enough time that we are close to being like, maybe this just isn't the guy that we thought he'd be. Good player, probably a 5-win player, especially with the defense and base running, but not the superstar that we thought he was going to be. Who knows? We'll just have to see, guys. But we're not done with today's show. We're going to keep talking and blabbing a little bit more about the Padres' shortcomings and then talk a little bit about that deadline that is 7 days away. Got a lot more left, guys. Just because there's one segment doesn't mean you should leave. So stay tuned. But first, a word from our sponsors. And that sponsor, oh, it's an old familiar one. It is a great. Don't you love some familiar faces every now and then, guys? Let me tell you, if you ever wish managing your money felt easier with Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's great. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. And it's great. You're ordering too much takeout. I know I'm already doing some down here, man. This Mexican food out here, oh, man, with the food delivery or the food pickup. Well, they're going to let you know if you're spending too much on those sort of things. If I go a little bit crazy this weekend, you know, the Monarch folks are going to let me know, which is what I love so much about Monarch Money. And it also makes sharing, shared account with your partners so much easier, letting you stay on the same page, right? So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Go check it out. And just like that, everybody, we are here on the Locked On Padres podcast, thriving and vibing as always. Usually, I know it's been a little bit of I don't even know what my mood has been on this podcast. I've been really energetic. You know, I've got my lovely hat on, but I have to admit, I've been a little bit all over the place. But we will not be all over the place in this last segment. We are talking specifically trade deadline stuff. We're a week away. July 24th, deadline is July 31st. a day after my birthday, which should be really, really fun. Hopefully the Padres make a trade on my birthday. Who knows? Because long-time fans and listeners of this podcast know that actually on my birthday in 2021, I remember the Padres were supposed to get Max Scherzer. Remember that? Remember Ken Rosenthal? That was on my birthday, I'm pretty sure. And then, of course, the next day we find out it's all for ruin, we should say. But let's talk about like some intrusive thoughts I've had. First of all is the Jaren Duran thing. I think that, so here's how I see it. We've spent a lot of time talking about trade candidates on the show. I think that there are 4 categories right now. There are the high-end guys. There's the middle tier sort of guys. The like lower tier like bargain bin guys. And then the 4th category is just guys we don't even know who are available right now. Right? Guys that we're not expecting that may get moved. And this happens. And I'm not saying that they'll necessarily be shocker like, whoa, they traded that guy, but more like, oh, wow, yeah, we haven't been talking about him. And then that's a guy that gets traded. So for the top guys, it's easily, in my opinion, as of right now, it's Jaren Duran for the Padres. In general, Eugenio Suarez would be the other one. Obviously not an option for the Padres given third base and all that stuff, but it's Jaren Duran, right? And Jaren Duran, they've been talking about it so much. We've been hearing rumors about this quite literally for 2 months now. Like, it's pretty nuts. And one of the things that's interesting about this is that the rumors have persisted, despite the fact that they did trade Rafael Devers, and that, in theory, made it possible for them to be like, okay, we don't have to move Devers in order to bring up Roman Anthony, their top prospect, right? Like, we don't have to worry about that anymore. We have some more flexibility with the lineup. But the fact that it's still happening tells me that Preller really wants this guy. And let me be clear, this would probably be a great player for this lineup. I think he would be an electric baseball player. I think he would immediately solve all of the Padres' outfield problems. They would probably have the best outfield in baseball if they were to make this trade. Jaren Duran, like, he's been such a good player this year. He is rocking where is he right now? But he's rocking a 104 WRC plus, which I think is interesting. He is a star potential player, but part of me is wondering, is Jaren Duran just a Brian Reynolds, where he's had one amazing year and he's always going to be a solid baseball player that you'd like to have, but does he have that upside? And I don't like the idea of trading for Jaren Duran. I just don't. I think it's going to cost too much, potentially, and I just don't know if he's that good compared to what you might have to give up. But here's what I think could happen. My intrusive thought is that they're going to trade Ethan Salas because this is a prospect that has not developed the way they might have liked. And what that means for the Padres is very important to hold as a critique, because for them, sometimes that just means if you don't develop into someone who can help us right now, we're out on you, which isn't always great, right? Look at CJ Abrams, how they did with him. Look at Luis Campizano is originally getting called up, right? They love getting rid of these guys. And then I think it would be a reliever. I think it's like a reliever and then maybe one other prospect, like a lower tier one, maybe Bradley Rodriguez, something like that, who I like for what it's worth. Maybe something like that. And then maybe I'm wondering as well, maybe if the Red Sox throw in one other random, bullpen piece or whatever, and then the Padres throw in one of these starters, right? Whether it be Randy, Kolek, Hoeing, Waldron, Berger, one of those guys I could see as package for a deal. I could see it. The reason it has to be Estrada, in my opinion, is that the Red Sox have bad bullpen. They just do. This has not been a good thing for them. I know they have Aroldis Chapman, but they're not always that great there. You could give up as well one of the other four horsemen, Adrian Monajon. You could give up Jason Adam. You could give up Robert Suarez. You could give up any of these guys, right? But for me, I think it's simple because Jeremiah Estrada is so young and is already so good, and the upside could be that this guy could be one of the premier guys in baseball. I do think that could happen, right? And given that age, given the years of control, all of these guys would have control. But if it's Jason Adam, it's like, okay, we get him for this year, which is good. The Red Sox are a contender right now. And you get him for all of next year. That's still a player that they could definitely give up, right? And Adrian Monajon, same thing. Control this year, and you have control next year, and then he's a free agent. But with Estrada, you're keeping that dude for a long time. And I think that that's the type of move or player that you give up if you want to get Jarren Duran. Would I hate this? I wouldn't hate it if I'm the Padres, because I do think that Jarren Duran has room to grow as an offensive player, and he's going to be a pretty great defensive player, right? At least I think he'll be a good defensive player. I know he hasn't rated that great necessarily all year. He's weird. -5 outs above average, but 6 defensive runs saved, right? Worse than he was last year. But I think overall, like, you do have some big upside with this guy. I mean, last year in the outfield in totality, this dude had 23 DRS, defensive runs saved, and a 10 outs above average. Like, if he's just having a little bit of an off year, then we're talking about like a 4-win outfielder, like a guy who can flirt with star power every now and then. But for me, I'm leaning away from it because I just want to keep Salas and I want to keep Estrada and I want to keep the options open. And I think I would rather go for who we talked about yesterday, Marcell Ozuna or Harrison Bader, who I consider in the lower tier of options. And then the other tier of options are like the risky guys, right? Sandy Alcantara, Luis Robert. Luis Robert is the one that I would really want to go for because I think that his offensive upside is great. I think Jaren Duran could be the more complete player, but I think Luis Robert, the offense, is what the Padres need. I think he's got a little bit of a juice factor to him too. I think he's got a little bit of that sex appeal to him, right? Where like that's a flashy name. He's going to make big time plays. He's going to hit some nukes, right? Not be as exciting, really, Jaren Duran as Luis Robert. And I think that Robert as well, it's possible that you get him for less, given that he has a little bit of a salary on him, and given the fact that he hasn't been playing great all year long. And I think most importantly, for why I'd be a little bit more in on trading for Luis Robert. Again, this is all hypothetical. Like, we don't know if he's actually going to, they're asking for DeVries right now. I think that if you do the deal, remember what we talked about with White Sox players for my everydayers, that they keep turning out great elsewhere. Sheets, Yohan Moncada, Andrew Vaughn, potentially for the Brewers. The fact that they've all turned out great, I think says something about that team, which is why I think he's a great change of scenery candidate. But again, if they go Jaren Duran, not going to hate it, but I really am against trading prospects like Ethan Salas and like Leo DeVries. Although I don't think it'd be DeVries. I think if Jaren Duran is traded, it can't be DeVries because I think it would have happened already. Like, if this was a non-starter for the Red Sox and they're like, we need DeVries, then I think that it would have been done already, right? Or we wouldn't have been getting as much kernels and follow-up on this as previous years or previous months, right? It just seems to be steadily, the rumors are still there. And if they were still there, that implies that they're still talking. And if they're still talking and the Red Sox want DeVries, I don't think Preller's doing it. I really don't. I think DeVries is too valuable right now for this team. I think that he likes having at least a couple golden egg superstar level prospects potentially. And I think DeVries is one of those guys. He's like 19. He's like a top 5 prospect in baseball. Like, we're talking about a guy, everyone wants to talk about Bogarts. If 4 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever it is for DeVries, if he's ready, like, that solves a lot of the problems for the Padres, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe they stick him at second base and move Cronenworth back to first. There's just more options there. There's more excitement there, and you get another player under control. And I remember some of you guys commenting how we should just trade Jackson Merrill back when he was still just a prospect. So those are my thoughts for now. There's still so many other guys, right, that we still have to talk about. We're going to learn more as time goes along. Going to potentially have some more people on the show to talk about it as well. But that's about it, guys, for the Locked On Padres podcast today. The only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. Follow me on Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. Going to talk more trade stuff basically exclusively on tomorrow's show. Maybe with a guest, maybe not. Maybe just this nice little painting behind me and then my lovely hat. We'll have to see. But until that next time, stay safe and, of course, stay faithful. My Friar Faithful homies, take care.